I'm Jasmine Moradi, and you're listening to the Queens of Tech podcast, a podcast series about raising the voice of workplace champions. 60 plus questions in around 30 to 40 minutes with women, women of color, non-binary, and transgender influencers about their journey into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I started the Queens of Tech podcast initiative in May 2022 because I would like to retain more women, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders in the tech industry. Talent is out there, but our work environment needs to improve for all to feel safer, stay authentic, and to be valued for our contributions. My vision is to raise the workplace ecosystem for all in tech by killing the imposter syndrome, stopping bad behavior, and increasing equity opportunities. Each podcast talk is built around 60 plus questions regarding upbringing, education, career path, DIB, and future advice. My mission is to bridge the gap between schools and workplaces by getting into the heart of my guest's personal life and career journey to inspire other girls, women, women of color, non-binary, and transgenders to unleash their full potential to reach top leadership roles in the tech industry. My goal is to raise the voices of tech champions around the world and together with companies, investors, and politicians, raise the challenges and opportunities around equity, inclusive, diversity, and belonging in our workplaces. Enough is enough. I would like to enforce companies to build a sustainable, inclusive culture to retain diverse talent so we keep the workforce power equity to continue building future diverse and inclusive products. Representation matters. Your voice matters. In this episode, I'm very excited to welcome my guest, Tech Queen Ashleigh Respicio, Director of Partner Success Operations at Playwire. Hi, Ashleigh.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'm very happy to have you joining us. How are you today? It's Friday.
Yes, I am doing great. The weather's supposed to be warmer, so I'm in Philadelphia area. We're approaching summer, so that's nice.
Exciting times. But now, let us dive into your journey into STEM. Hope you're ready for the Queens of Tech 60 plus questions.
I'm ready.
Let's warm up with a few fun facts about you. How would you describe your personality in 3 hashtags?
Determined, curious, and motivated.
How would you describe your life in 3 sentences or hashtags?
Hashtag root on this one too. I would say full, unexpected, and hopeful.
What kind of music stimulates and motivates you the most?
I am not as much of a music person, but I am most motivated by podcasts. So learning about people in other industries or how they started their businesses, and also just being outside in nature. So I'd say nature sounds.
So what is your favorite podcast?
I like How I Built This. So it's all about talks with people of all different sizes, companies of all different sizes, walking through how they started, the troubles that they ran into, any issues, and how they succeeded. It's really inspiring to me to hear their stories.
What is your favorite book?
My favorite book is The Dove Keepers by Alice Hoffman. It's a super inspiring story of strong women. I've loved it for years. I read it probably about 10 years ago, and that's still my favorite book.
What is your personal motto?
I would rather try something new and fail at it than have never tried, and I have failed a lot.
Mac or PC?
Oh, Mac for sure.
There's something interesting about you that most people don't know.
When I was in my early 20s, I was a personal chef.
What is your hidden talent?
I can turn a wine glass into a singing bowl. That's my party trick.
If you were going to write a book about your life, what would the title be?
I'll Take the Hard Path and Other Stories of Being Stubborn.
Great start, Ashleigh. Let us now dig deeper. Our childhood has an effect on our adulthood. Our early experiences shape our belief about ourselves, others, and the world. So, I want to discover your childhood. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Vermont.
What was your dream job as a child?
I wanted to be an astronaut. I loved space and science, had all the models of spaceships and had stars on my ceiling. I was very into space at the time.
What was your favorite subject in school?
I had two that I couldn't decide between, math, and I loved shop class. So taking apart car engines and working with my hands.
What was your least favorite subject?
English.
What is your earliest memory of technology and the arrival of the internet?
I used to play the game Myst on my dad's computer, and we had some multi-floppy disk game, and we'd have to change out the disks every probably 10 minutes to keep progressing, but it was a lot of fun.
And which were the three first technology gadgets you owned yourself?
I had a Walkman in my teens. I'm a bit of a late adapter. So I had a Walkman in my teens, and then in my early 20s, I had a laptop and a Nokia cell phone, like the brick kind.
Who was your female role model growing up and why?
My paternal grandmother, she was very strong, very independent. She raised four boys, had amazing life stories, many life experiences, and she never got her driver's license. But when my grandfather passed away and she was in her 60s, she went and got her driver's license and had a whole new life driving around and experiencing new things.
Very inspiring.
Yeah.
So based on what you said, how do you think where you grew up and the school you went to and the generation you come from influence your education and career choice?
I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs in a very, very small town. So we had to be very creative with keeping ourselves busy and finding things to do. So that definitely inspired me to try new things, take different paths until I found one that really inspired me that I wanted to continue. Definitely not the traditional path, but it definitely shaped who I am today.
So Ashleigh, let us dig into your career and education path. But first, I want to read two quotes. First one, how does the universe expect me to choose a career path at 16? I can't even choose what I want for dinner. Second, Abraham Lincoln said, I quote, the best way to predict your future is to create it. So where and what did you end up studying at university?
I ended up studying at Drexel University in Philadelphia, and I studied finance and economics.
Who and what influenced you to get into your chosen field?
I tried out finance and economics for a little while and realized it wasn't quite for me. And then I have always been very interested in technology since getting that first laptop and the introduction of blogs and all of the fascinating things that are on the internet. And then from there, I explored the technology sector and realized that it was something that I wanted to do.
And what professional roles have you had before that led you to the current one?
I was a Pilates studio owner. So with that Pilates studio, I had a website. So that got me into the building and creating of websites. From there, I became a website designer and developer. And then I moved into more of a traditional work setting where I became a website project manager and strategist, and then a marketing and operations manager, which then led me to Playwire and learning the ad tech industry. So lots of steps.
And what does Playwire do?
So we're an ad monetization partners, and we work with publishers, so website creators and content creators, both large and small, and also app developers. And we work with them to monetize their sites through ad revenue. It's super exciting, and it's always something different every day.
What is your title and what is your main responsibilities?
I am the Director of Partner Success Operations at Playwire, and I oversee the onboarding of new publishers onto our platform, working with them to develop their ad layouts. And then also I work cross-department with teams to create a really great onboarding experience for our publishers. And then on the others, the more the operations side, I manage our CRM and our customer experience software that we communicate with our publishers on.
How did you end up getting the role?
My network. So I am a strong believer that your network is your most powerful tool in growing your career. And that's how I got my role.
What does a typical workday or work week look like for you?
I work remotely. I typically start around 8:30 in the morning, getting prepared for any meetings that I have. And then my days really consist of meetings and lots of tasks with switching. So working with my team and then working on various projects throughout the day. I usually finish between 5:30 and 6 p.m. in the evening. Yeah, that's pretty typical. No day is really the same. So that keeps it interesting and keeps my project-oriented mind very occupied.
And I love the quote, choose a job you love and you would never have to work a day in your life. So Ashleigh, what do you love about your role?
I love working with my team. I love helping them to succeed and to grow and follow their own career journey. And then I also love improving processes. I'm very process oriented. So anytime I get to work with processes, I'm very happy.
What is the best experience you've had in your current role so far?
It's more of a general example, but it would be working with my team and really helping them to grow. So I always get the most enjoyment and fulfillment out of seeing a team member succeed or reach the goal that they had for themselves. And that would probably be my biggest accomplishment and best experience.
And reaching the journey of success, there are some hinder of challenges. So what is the biggest challenge you've encountered so far and how did you tackle it?
Like I said before, I definitely am a project-oriented person. I grew up with a family of entrepreneurs, so very self-motivated and moving along at my pace. So I think the biggest challenge overall has just been working in a traditional work environment and still maintaining that level of interest and finding projects and being involved in projects over time. And in doing so, that's really helped me to overcome that challenge of the daily tasks that really don't have an endpoint.
And what do you wish everybody understood about your role?
I would say that it takes a lot of time and energy and patience and synchronizing all of the like moving parts on the back end to make a process feel seamless to our user. And I don't think that always comes across. That's probably the one thing that I would love everyone to understand, the amount of time it takes on the back end to get everything to feel just perfect on the front end.
Yep, because everybody see the beauty side of it, but the hard work building it up,
Yes.
a lot of work behind it. And what is the common myth about your professional field that you want to disapprove?
A common myth that I've come across in my experience is really needing to get into the tech industry early. So early in your career to really grow and move up and reach your goals. I actually started after I had kids working in the tech industry. So it is quite possible and rewarding.
Very inspiring journey for people that want to get into the tech industry. What is it about the tech industry that you love?
I would say the challenges, there's things that go wrong all the time and really having to problem solve and find solutions as well as just the opportunities. There's so many opportunities in this industry and just really looking for them and maximizing on them. So I think that's pretty exciting about the industry as a whole.
An Oprah Winfrey said, I quote, think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is not a stepping stone to greatness. So Ashleigh, what has by far been your biggest achievement in your career?
I would say it just starting after I had kids, really taking everything that I had learned from all of my previous work experiences and career opportunities and bringing those experiences together and working really hard to find the career and grow from there. After I had kids, that's definitely my biggest accomplishment.
What would you say is the biggest factor that's helped you become successful and do that transition? Any success habits?
Definitely staying curious, always looking to learn more, utilizing all the resources that are available to us now. There's many, many opportunities out there. And then also the other is taking ownership for my mistakes. So always owning up to if I make a mistake, also coming forward with a solution. So those haven't failed me, essentially. They've definitely helped me to grow and to also just be a stronger person as a whole.
So how do you measure your own performance at work then, knowing that you're successful or you need to improve?
I would say definitely how my team is performing currently in my role, really supporting my team to make sure that they feel successful in everything that they're doing. And if not, then working with them to improve. So I measure my performance on theirs, based on theirs as well. And then also just how well processes are running. That's the operations side of me. So yeah, if they're not running well, then I'm not doing my job.
And with success comes failures. You did mention in your motto that you're ready to do something unknown and fail. What is your biggest failure in your career and what did you learn from it?
I would say it's a failure and a lesson. I definitely, in the beginning, when I was first starting in the industry, overworked and burned out completely. And I ended up having to leave my job to reset. It taught me a lot, but it was definitely probably a failure in some way as well.
What would you say is inspiring and motivate you the most in your role and career right now?
I guess I would say what is inspiring and motivating me the most is just knowing that there's always a better way to build something and to look for ways to do that, whether that working within the team or, within our team to find that better way and getting feedback from our customers. I think that's always really motivating to work collaboratively and build a better solution.
Great, Ashley. Let us now jump into the influence of mentors, role models, champions, and sponsors. Role models can consciously or subconsciously be a powerful force in our lives. In addition, champions can stand up and advocate for us and open up the world of possibilities. Sponsors match emerging talent with leaders and influential employees who can help us move ahead in our careers. So, do you have a mentor, champion, or a sponsor today?
I would say I have a couple from different areas of the industry that are definitely advocate for me and also motivate me to just be better, essentially.
And history shows that it's been more common for men having mentors, champions, and a sponsor in business than women. So, how important do you think is to have a mentor, champion, or sponsor during one's career?
I think it's very important to have a role model or a champion or a sponsor. I also believe that it's important to not put them on a pedestal. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have faults. So it's really about pulling that attribute of those individuals that we see as a role model and using those attributes to grow ourselves.
Let us now move on to leadership. Adena Friedman, President and CEO of NASDAQ, said, I quote, empower those around you to be heard and valued makes a difference between a leader who simply instructs and one who inspires. And Shirley Sandberg, ex-COO of Facebook, said, I quote, leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that the impact lasts in your absence. So, Ashley, what does leadership mean to you?
I would definitely agree with Sheryl Sandberg. Leadership is definitely for me about bringing people up, building people up on a team, allowing them to really shine and show their strengths and grow as individuals and within their career and helping to facilitate that.
What do you consider a good versus a bad leader?
A good leader would be to build their team up so that they become better versions of the leader themselves. And I would say a bad leader is one that builds a team up, but only to the level just below the leader. So not allowing them to shine or to grow beyond.
Who is your favorite female, non-binary, or transgender tech leader and why?
I don't have a particular favorite tech leader or really a reason why. I think I just take inspiration from a lot of women in leadership and how they've gotten to their positions within the industry and with outside of the industry, but I don't necessarily have one in particular that stands out, I would say.
How would you then describe yourself as a leader?
Oh gosh, I would say that my job is to listen, to observe, and to guide and to build. And that's how I basically strive. That's what I strive to do every day. So that's how I would define myself as a leader.
And as a leader, what values are most important to you?
Empathy, accountability, and vision.
What leadership lessons have you learned that have formed you into the leader you are today?
So one of the biggest lessons I learned was I read a book. I was given to me by a previous leader that I worked with at another company, the book called Thanks for the Feedback. And that book really shaped how I receive feedback and how I give feedback now. That was probably about 7 years ago when I read the book, and it really gave super insightful in providing feedback. I revisit it every couple of years to brush up.
What are your 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses?
I would say my strengths are observation, patience, and organization. My weaknesses are overworking, at times putting others' interests ahead of my own. So really putting myself aside too much. I think there's a fine line there. And then also perfectionist tendencies. I wouldn't say I'm a recovering perfectionist yet, but I hope to be there one day.
Let us now jump into the hottest topic in business today, workplace culture, unlocking the power of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Ashleigh, what does diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging mean to you personally?
Personally, it means to me is feeling seen and heard. We all deserve the space, really, to be seen and heard.
And what do you consider being 3 to 5 signs of good company culture if you were to join a company?
I have signs that I definitely look for just within a company or within the company I'm in, making sure that it's always there. And then also when I'm learning about other companies. So one is that your feedback is always valued. So any of the employees' feedback is always valued, that the accomplishments, no matter big or small, from any department are celebrated. And then also that employees feel comfortable in speaking up when processes aren't working.
And as a woman, what has been the most significant political or cultural barrier in your career, and how have you overcome these challenges?
I would say my most significant barrier from being in elementary school has been feeling the sense of needing to stay small or not be too loud. And it's really taken me a long time to feel confident enough to advocate for myself and my career. I definitely always, since I started really after having kids in this career path, I always call myself an older individual, but young in my career. So it has taken quite a bit of time, and it's really just been through learned experiences and looking up to other people in the industry and seeing how they advocate for themselves, really, and using them, mirroring how they do that.
Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of us do recognize that. Why do you think it's important for more women, women of color, non-binary, and transgender to join the tech industry today?
It's super important. And I really feel that all of our lived experiences are so unique, and the bringing together of and bringing more people into the industry with different perspectives really allows much more innovation and understanding as a whole within organizations, but also with the products that we put out into the world.
And then do you and how do you speak with your colleagues, peers, and community about DIB challenges, for example, salary gaps, promotion, motherhood, etc.?
I would say that, in my opinion and experience, I found that the conversations specifically around salary and promotions are tend to be a little bit generational. I have enjoyed working with the younger generation because I have found that they are much more comfortable speaking up about their salary, promotions, and really asking for their worth. So I've actually learned a lot from them. And I find it really inspiring. I think that we all have a lot to learn from the younger generation and how we approach that and have it be less of something that we don't speak about to a more of an open conversation is beneficial for the company as a whole.
There are many public and internal discussions about those barriers that women of color, non-binary, and transgender face from reaching higher position in the tech industry or receiving funding. How do you feel it has affected, is affecting you, and what is your advice how to best unblock these roadblocks?
I've started my career after having kids, like I mentioned a couple of times, and I'm very, very proud of how far I've grown and the opportunities that have been given to me throughout the past 10 years or so. Over that time, I have found that the ceiling is a little bit higher. We are able to get into higher management roles. However, I do still feel that there are much fewer seats at the top. And to get into those seats, it does require sacrifice, especially for women, whether that's our family, our friends, our self-care and time. And I don't have any specific advice to unblock the roadblocks, but I do think that we are moving forward. And I would say just for us to continue these types of conversations, to have more conversations and advocate for ourselves even more within our organizations to be seen and heard and to keep moving forward.
I agree with you. And speaking about it is great, but there's also like this buzzword about the IB versus the actions. And today, tech companies do spend a lot of marketing money to attract women of color, non-binary, and transgenders. However, at the same time, they're finding it hard to retain them. Articles show that women are leaving the tech industry. What is your best advice on strategies for how companies can work to build a stronger corporate culture that engages DIB?
I have a lot of thoughts around this one, which probably there could be a whole nother conversation. I truly believe that from a fundamental level, the way that businesses are structured need to change. I feel like we need to take a step back and really evaluate how we all work, how we engage, how we collaborate. I think there's so much to say, and so much to work through there as far as how we can do better just as a whole from the ground up. At our core, we're collaborators, nurturers, and we're actually quite fiercely protective of each other. So I think that really to retain our women and our group is really to have bigger conversations and understand how we all could lead teams better, scale our businesses better, and empower our workforce as a whole. I think that really what it comes down to is we've been trying to fix a model that was built by one group. So it takes a lot of work and a lot of time and resources to think about restructuring and how we can be more inclusive to all populations within the workplace. But I think it definitely, there is a movement or some initiatives that need to happen because we are an evolving population. We are growing and we have so many people that aren't being included in the conversation that have a lot to share and a lot of amazing things to provide. So many talents where we could be growing as organizations in a much different way if we allow people to be involved instead of keeping the room very small and very much of one very small portion of the population.
And based on what you said, your advice and your strategies, what would you say are the few factors of challenges of implementing a DIB culture in a workplace in a tech industry still today?
In my opinion, the biggest challenge is really, I came into this industry with networking, so with my network. So it's an amazing resource to have, but I also feel like it's limiting at the same time. So I would say one of the biggest factors that would need to happen is just to be more open up, C-suite a little bit more or a lot more to really create change. We can create change in entry-level roles, middle management roles, but it really needs to come from the top to create lasting change in an organization.
And mentioning C-suite level, talking about leadership, why and how do you think companies would benefit from having not just women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders, but actual higher gender representation at C-suite level and boardrooms with actual voices?
I think it would benefit tremendously. Going back to what I had said previously, having those individuals with different lived experiences makes a huge difference in how decisions are made with an organization. If you have a room full of the people that have the same education background, the similar upbringings, you're going to get a very one-sided way of doing things, one-sided decision making. When you have a room filled with individuals that have different perspectives and different ideas to share, you have a much more well-rounded organization and much more thoughtful decision-making happening at that C-suite level.
You're absolutely right. But what would you say is the biggest reason behind that we don't have more women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders in the tech leadership roles and as startup founders still today?
Yes, I think that it takes a lot of work for us to get to those higher leadership positions and then also get to the C-suite. I feel it takes a lot more energy, resources, and time than your typical C-suite person to get to that level. And I feel as though that's part of the reason why we just get tired. I think that's one. And I also feel that we still have the barrier of not necessarily politically correct, but that bro culture of pulling in people from, different networks to fill those roles rather than lifting up someone from within the organization that has that different perspective. I don't think that we're there yet. And I think that's where the challenge comes when we get almost there and then we burn out or there just isn't the opportunity because we're still in that bro type culture of just filling those seats with friends.
And you were telling me earlier that you come from an entrepreneur family and you've had a studio yourself. So you're very entrepreneurial yourself. And who knows what's your next adventure? But there is a concerning trend. The data reveals that there is low funding rates for startups led by women, with only 1 to 2% of the funding directed towards women in the tech industry. Black and Latino women in particular receive less than 1%. What factors do you believe contribute to this imbalance, and what strategies can be activated to increase funding for women-led startups?
I would say looking at it from two different perspectives. One being that startup founder, there's less women-led startups. I think that is really, in my generation at least, starts from the beginning, that staying small. Like I had mentioned previously, that feeling there isn't a lot of encouragement with girls from an early age to really take on that leadership role. I still think that it is something that we struggle with in our school. I do see there is momentum happening just within my kids' school, but I do think it starts from there. It takes a lot of confidence and self-awareness, I guess, to really be able to take on that role and feel like you can do it and have that motivation. And I think that it's less taught and encouraged for women, Black and Latino women specifically, to do that. So I think that that is one where it starts from there. It's less of an aspiration because it seems quite unattainable. And then from the venture capital or from the funding perspective, again, there's very few women in that industry as well. So unless there's some strong initiative within that organization to fund women-founded startups, it isn't something that is necessarily, it's not a priority. So something needs to change there. And then also, let's start our own VCs and funding groups if we can. I mean, people are doing it and we need to work to be advocates for each other and to rise each other up. It's been generations that men have done that. That's been the norm. And I think that women need to start taking on that role and doing the same.
How much do you think the tech industry has changed regarding DIB since you joined?
I don't really feel it's changed very much, to be honest with you. I think that there are more mid-level positions being filled by women, but the top, I really have not seen a change, which is unfortunate and frustrating at the same time, but also motivating. So hoping that we can continue to make a change or to keep pushing, and then also empower younger generations to continue and to really, really break through and be the majority at the top.
And looking back on your own career, what one thing would you have changed in your working environment to break the bias?
Definitely being a stronger advocate for myself. That 100%. I think that that really would have perhaps increased or quickened my trajectory. But also, I think that just in general, it's just building that self-confidence and being a stronger advocate from the beginning. It's a learned skill. So it's not something I could say, oh, if I had had it, then something quickly would have changed. Oh, it would go way back. But it definitely is something that I would change if I could go back, do something different.
Well, the learning brings also that somebody else will listen to it and take from your experiences and do it. And then looking forward, what will you do as a leader to improve the bias for the next generation of women of color, non-binary, and transgender in tech, beyond speaking up like you do here with your voice?
I do strive to do this with the small team that I work with, but really building them up and encouraging them to me not speaking up for them and saying, hey, this person did a great job. While also that is helpful and appreciated, but I also, as a leader, encourage them to speak up for themselves. So any opportunity, give them the little nudge to say, hey, let your accomplishments be known and, speak up at this meeting and let everyone know what great goal was reached or how you helped this one client. So just learning to not necessarily use humbleness as something to hide behind, to really let their accomplishments be known, at the same time as also encouraging them to speak up and look at if there's a better way to do something.
Great leadership advice and skills you have. Thank you for sharing that. Let us move on to another hot topic in business today, which is work-life balance and mental health. Ashleigh, you have without a doubt a busy lifestyle. You did mention one of your weaknesses is overworking. How do you take care of yourself to maintain good mental health?
I'm very routine oriented. I exercise every day and I prioritize sleep. Those are the two things that I have been working on over the past few years that have really helped to keep my overworking and burnout tendencies at bay.
You did mention that you have experienced burnout. How did you end up tackling it?
So I had to take a step back and reset. I had to take time to evaluate what was working for me and what wasn't working for me, how I wanted my days to look, and then rebuild from there. So when I left my job, I ended up doing more contract work so I could start to build a better routine throughout my day. And then from there, moved on to working for larger companies while still maintaining that routine. But I really had to take some time to completely level set and start from the beginning. Not everyone has that ability, but I think that even just taking a couple days to reflect and make small steps to get there. So maybe that is turning your computer off at 5:30 or whenever you end your day and not turning it back on again. That I still work on. But I think that's a really good step to just maybe find a new hobby or something that you go to after your work to just refresh and use your brain in a different way, use your body in a different way, whether it's exercise or something creative. So starting to incorporate those tiny steps to then reset and get back into a more manageable routine.
What is your advice on how companies can create a more mentally healthy workplace in the new now?
I definitely feel that having one workday a week of no meetings is really helpful for employees. I've tried to do that for myself. It's not something that we do as a company right now, but it is something that I intentionally work to do with my own schedule, and something that if a company doesn't do it, it might be a potential something that someone could do just as an employee. But as company wide, it would be great to establish a no meeting day. Also, to encourage collaboration and innovation like cross departments that allows, especially the more remote the workforce is becoming, it allows you to learn about more people within your company and just grow relationships from there. So you have more points of contact throughout your day, but also to collaborate on building great things and feeling a sense of accomplishment there outside of like the normal daily tasks. So a separate type of collaboration type exercise. And I would also say to have active conversations with employees around pathways to growth. I think it's really important to speak and have the open space for employees to understand their growth within an organization, but also to share what overall their career goals are, because it builds a more fulfilling work environment to know that you're working towards something as an employee within the company, but also within your life. So having more opportunities for those conversations, whether that's in your review meetings mid-year and annual review, or just a separate conversation that is revisited every few quarters to make sure that everyone is feeling as though they're making progress in some way, whatever that progress may be.
And what would you say motivates you every day to get out of bed, Ashleigh?
Oh gosh, I would say the opportunity to learn more in everything in my job, and also just my kids help me motivate me. I love seeing them grow and become independent and move on to build their own lives. It's really motivating to see other people be motivated and have big goals and dreams.
Now, let us wrap up with a few words of wisdom and a piece of advice for our listeners. So, Ashleigh, what is the best piece of advice you've been given that has helped you during setbacks in your role and career?
The best advice would be to own your actions, take ownership for whether good or bad, take ownership for your actions, and to ask for feedback, whether also good or bad. Super helpful, and it has not failed me in any way.
And then, what is the worst advice you've ever been given, and how did you tackle that?
So my worst advice was more of a statement, and it was not in my career, it was in college, but it will go back to my comment about English being my least favorite subject. My English teacher told me I was a horrible writer, and that has really stuck with me. And I have to basically just give myself a pep talk every time I'm writing to really work on that. But yeah, that was probably the worst advice and something that I took quite personally.
And is there something you wish you would have known or a skill you wish you had when starting out in the tech industry?
I would say to be a confident writer. I think that writing is extremely important skill in any industry, also in tech, whether it's correspondence, but also just writing as processes. So just to find that confidence in writing, and that will carry you extremely far.
And if you had the ability to go back in time to when you were just at the beginning of your career, what advice would you give to your younger self?
The advice that I would give myself is I did spend a lot of time trying to find a mentor, seeking out a mentor. And I think, as we said before, having role models and mentors are extremely important in your role, but it's not the only thing in success. I feel that learning to be my own mentor within first, and then finding the attributes in those people. It's just not one person. There's a lot you can learn from so many people throughout various parts of your life. So I would just say to my younger self, don't stop seeking out finding external motivation or mentorship, to start from within first. And then you'll be able to see those that are role models within your life.
And what advice would you give to young girls, women, women of color, non binary, and transgenders who want and trying to break into STEM fields today, especially wanting to become next generation leaders?
I would say to stay curious, to keep learning, to seek out resources that will help you to grow. It doesn't need to be the traditional college path. I started my tech journey really going to coding classes with a free organization in Philadelphia called Girl Develop It. And that is a really great place to, one, work with people that are in the tech industry, to get a feel for what it's all about, to build your network and also build your skill set at the same time. So using resources like that can really help to grow in the field outside of anything that is going to college, getting this degree. I think that is equally as important to do, to find your community, essentially.
Last but not least, Ashleigh, what is next for you in your role and career in tech? What are your career aspirations?
I would say my love and aspiration is to continue to work with women specifically in building their career paths. That's a passion of mine. I would like to continue with that. I don't know what that looks like today, but it is definitely something that I would like to continue just based on my own lived experience and how I got to where I am today. And also to empower women to, whether they're out of college and trying to figure out what they're wanting to do with their life, all the way to women reentering the workforce for whatever reason, whether it's needing to take time off for family or to have their own children or for whatever reason, but feeling the confidence to re-enter or enter an industry and not feeling like they need to stay small or there's only a certain amount of growth that they could do. It is quite endless. Yeah, I just want to be that support and advocate for them.
And you will. And I look forward to following your journey, your past really, and your experiences by shaping that into educating and guiding and servicing other people. That is a purpose in life also. And I think it's very beautiful. So thank you very much, Ashleigh, for being a guest on the Queens of Tech podcast, sharing your journey without a doubt, inspire change and reshape company culture for the next generation of women of color, non-binary, and transgender leaders in tech.
Thank you for having me. I've had a great time and it's a great conversation.
Thank you for listening. If you have worked in the tech industry minimum 3 years and would like to share your journey, please nominate yourself or somebody you know to i@jasminemoradi.com. For more podcast episodes and to learn more about the Queens of Tech initiative and to support us, visit queensof.tech.